DeWanna Bonner in the hot seat after saying what she stated last night in her press conference, man. I can't lie, it does look like some hypocrisy going on.
DeWanna Bonner continues to take shots at the Indiana Fever and the Fever fans. I think it's absolutely disgusting.
She took the contract, smiled at the cameras, gave heartfelt interviews about leadership, mentorship, and loyalty, then disappeared. And when she finally reappeared, she wasn't just wearing a different jersey. She was glowing, rejuvenated, and dominant.
You stole that money from Indiana. You signed up for that bread and didn't deliver. You didn't show up for work. You made up bullcrap excuses to not be at.
The name on her back hadn't changed, but the story she was telling, completely rewritten. Dana Bonner didn't leave Indiana. She ghosted them. She took the money, walked into the locker room as a supposed veteran leader, and 5 weeks later emerged in purple, not red, without a single word of explanation. And what made it worse? That smile. That chilling, polished smile that said, nothing happened here. But something did happen, and the silence around it speaks volumes.
You refused to show up to work while receiving money, while taking payment. You refused to show up and do the job. And let's be clear, you wasn't even good while you was here. You was shooting threes hitting the side of the backboard.
Because what fans in Indiana saw wasn't just a player walking away. It was a betrayal, wrapped in professionalism, executed in silence. Dana Bonner's exit wasn't a trade. It wasn't a demotion. It was a calculated vanishing act, one that left a fan base reeling and a locker room disoriented. She wasn't just absent from the court. She was absent from the culture.
I wouldn't do anything differently. I think my journey is my journey, and I'm going to accept that. It carried me to where I am in Phoenix, and it happened that way for a reason. I mean, really, that is a wild statement.
From the promises, from the team she swore she'd help build. And when reporters finally asked if she regretted how it all unfolded, her answer wasn't defensive or thoughtful. It was colder than expected. I wouldn't change a thing. Imagine hearing that after watching your team pour over $200,000 into a player who vanished mid-season without giving them her full effort. That's not leadership, that's marketing.
The way that Caitlin Clark wants to play, which of course is the way that the Fever plays, that she is their nucleus, they want to push the ball down the court. They want to be quick, they want to be fast moving. At 37 years old, that style of play might not fit DeWanna Bonner very well. Like, that just doesn't highlight her strength. So I think it's probably a combination of style of play reasons, personal reasons. And yeah, like you said, at this point, she probably wants to win basketball games, make a little bit of money in the process.
When Dana Bonner arrived in Indiana, she wasn't treated like a role player nearing the end of her career. She was embraced like royalty, a stabilizing figure meant to help mold Caitlin Clark, guide Aaliyah Boston, and rally a young squad toward a playoff push. The front office rolled out the red carpet, coaches made promises, fans bought her jersey, and social media lit up with praise and excitement. But while the outside world was cheering, the cracks were already forming behind the scenes. Her effort on the court? Inconsistent. Her body language? Detached. Her stats? Underwhelming.
Lexi Hall's success and continued success in the system with Caitlin from last year, I think, was the big reason that DeWanna Bonner was moved to the bench at all and kind of trying to figure that out. When I went back through last week, just kind of like poring over all of these press conferences and like public comments and like my interviews that I had done in Indiana, the thing that stuck out to me was the first day, I think, of training camp, DeWanna Bonner had mentioned like she had to catch her breath because these guys are fast.
Yeah.
She averaged just over 7 points, shot poorly from deep, and seemed to drift through games like her heart was somewhere else. Still, the city stayed patient because they believed in her words, because that's what fans do. They believe in the people who say the right things until those words collapse under the weight of inaction.
It's going to take us a little bit of time to gel. Just be patient. Oh, man. Bonner. But man, it is crazy to hear her say that. It is crazy, y'all. I can't hold you.
The official reason for Bonner's 5-game absence? Personal reasons. But the truth slowly bled out, piece by piece. This wasn't a mental health leave. This wasn't a family emergency. This was a silent protest, a veteran holdout, a player quietly stepping back because her role wasn't what she imagined. And instead of working her way back into rhythm, she exited stage left. But here's the kicker. While Indiana scrambled to adapt, Dana was already preparing for a return. Just not with the team that believed in her.
The fact that now she's more so of understanding it's going to take some time to find your footing. It's, you have to be patient. Ah, man, that's tough, Bonner. That's tough. Coming from somebody that literally gave up. You gave up on Indiana Fever, man. You should have gave it some time, Bonner.
When she finally came back, it was in Phoenix, beside her fiancé Alyssa Thomas, lighting up the scoreboard like the past month never existed. Her debut stat line? 22 points, 11 rebounds. More hustle in one game than in her entire Indiana tenure combined. So the question writes itself. Where was this version of Dana Bonner when Indiana needed her most?
She came over here. She signed a max contract. She knew Phoenix didn't have the bread. She got 80 here and went and got the rest over there. I think it's trash.
Her sudden resurgence wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a comeback story. It was a confession. A silent admission that she'd been holding back. That performance was never the issue. Commitment was. And when you add up the timing, the trade, the reunion with her partner, it doesn't feel random. It feels rehearsed, like a storyline that was being quietly written all along. She used Indiana as a springboard, not for redemption, but for relocation. Not for leadership, but for leverage. The stats tell one story, but the timing tells the real one.
I don't understand why DeWanna Bonner is taking these interviews at this point in time, because I'm like, look, you're in Phoenix. You've got what you wanted. You've got what everyone expected you wanted all along. Everything's gone your way. Indiana haters are going to love you because you screwed over the Fever. They're going to love you because you screwed over the Fever. Phoenix Mercury fans are going to love you. Rival fans are going to love you because you basically screwed over the Fever. Fever fans are going to hate you because you screwed over the Fever.
There's nothing wrong with love, with wanting to play beside your partner, with craving comfort, but when that desire overrides your professionalism, your contract, your leadership responsibilities, that's where the line gets crossed. Because Dana Bonner didn't just leave Indiana.
First of all, the fans are the victim. The organization was the victim here. Like, why are we sitting here, she up in these articles like she was a victim, like she did, like something was done wrong? No, the fans are a victim. They welcome you with open arms. They embraced you.
She manipulated the system. She showed every veteran in the league how to collect a check, disappear, and rebrand without consequence. And the WNBA, it let her do it. Without a word. Without a fine, without even a whisper of accountability. That silence doesn't just speak, it screams. What does it say to young players? That loyalty is optional? That commitment is flexible? That your words in a press conference don't need to match your actions on the floor?
And you turned your back and you quit. It's that simple. You quit. You refused to show up to work. You wasn't hurt. You wasn't sick. It wasn't a personal fit. No, you just didn't want to be on the team. No.
And what about Indiana's front office? Where were they when the locker room needed clarity? When the fans needed truth? Kelly Krauskopf, Amber Cox, Coach Stephanie White, all silent.
You came here, you stunk it up, and then you got benched. Just because you was okay with coming off the bench in another situation don't mean you was okay with coming off the bench in this situation. So I want to know what's the real? What's the real? Because you can't say you while you was here, you said, "Oh, I've never played in front of this many fans." You were embraced by the fans. You spoke highly of the fans while you were here. You were a starter, but you wasn't playing well.
Reports even suggest that Bonner was promised a starting role, a role that never materialized once Lexi Hull stepped up. Did that cause the fallout? Did Bonner walk because she wasn't handed the reins? Or was this always her exit strategy? Wait for the right moment, then vanish without confrontation. Either way, the lack of transparency left everyone guessing. And when leadership refuses to control the narrative, it loses the locker room. It loses the fan base. And worse, it loses the standard. Phoenix didn't inherit a broken player. They inherited a rejuvenated star. She didn't need therapy or rehab. She needed a new backdrop, a new jersey, a softer spotlight. And the moment she got it, the league welcomed her back like nothing ever happened. Highlight reels, social media tributes, a comeback queen narrative. But what got erased in the process? The team she left behind, the players she abandoned, the fans who clapped for her when she said she was all in. Because when you walk away mid-season and shine elsewhere, it's not a comeback, it's a cover-up. And in Dana's case, it's the most quiet, calculated rebranding the league has ever seen. This is where it gets dangerous. When players realize they can underperform, go silent, reappear in a better situation, and be celebrated, the entire league culture begins to fracture. Because this isn't about Dana Bonner anymore. It's about the next player who takes notes, the next agent who sees the loophole, the next team that gets blindsided by a smile and a quote about leadership. And if the league doesn't address it, it becomes the new norm. That's not just bad for business, that's fatal for trust. And the WNBA, in this fragile phase of expansion, can't afford that kind of erosion. And what about the example this sets? For rookies like Caitlin Clark, who already deals with media chaos, social pressure, and an overloaded schedule. For players like Aaliyah Boston, who gave everything to keep the team afloat. What do they learn when a veteran like Bonner walks out mid-season and ends up getting more praise than she ever did in Indiana? That silence wins? That loyalty is just a slogan? That jerseys are temporary, but comfort is forever? That's not mentorship. That's misdirection. And it leaves the next generation wondering who to trust, the teammates in their huddle or the players plotting exits behind the curtain. Compare Bonner's storyline to Lexi Hull's, and the difference is night and day. Hull wasn't promised anything. She earned every minute. She adjusted to every curveball. She didn't ask for the spotlight, but she showed up every time it called. And in the end, she didn't just outperform Bonner, she exposed her. Because leadership isn't declared in interviews. It's proven in effort. And loyalty doesn't need a mic, it just needs to show up. Now Phoenix gets the glory. Bonner's bounce back is trending. Her fiancé is beside her. The team is rolling. But in Indiana, the memory remains. And it's not just a bitter one, it's a warning. Because behind every smile, there may be a strategy. And behind every exit, a story fans were never told. If Dana Bonner had just been honest, asked for a trade, admitted frustration, owned her exit, this could have been a different video. But she didn't. She pretended. And that decision didn't just hurt Indiana's chances, it damaged something deeper: trust. What remains now isn't a stat sheet. It's a lesson. For fans, for teammates, for the league. Because character isn't measured in rebounds. It's remembered in how you leave. And while Phoenix might hang her highlights on the wall, Indiana will never forget the silence. Because betrayal echoes long after the cameras stop rolling. What makes this worse is not just what Dana Bonner did, but what no one else in the league is doing about it. The WNBA has long been trying to push the narrative of growth, of sisterhood, of integrity, but this shattered that image. The league's silence on this high-profile vanishing act didn't just let it happen, it normalized it. And fans aren't just disappointed, they're disturbed. Because if contracts don't mean commitment and veteran leadership comes with loopholes, then what kind of league are we really supporting? This isn't just a fever problem anymore. It's a league-wide accountability crisis in disguise. And let's be honest, this isn't the first time fans have seen a veteran play the system. Over the years, there have been whispers about players who showed up for the paycheck but disappeared when the spotlight faded. What makes Bonner's case different is how public, how obvious, and how bold the transition was. She didn't hide. She didn't downplay. She stepped into her new role as if Indiana never existed. No gratitude, no farewell, no reflection, just a clean slate. But for those she left behind, the slate is still stained. There's a reason why so many fans are calling for transparency. Because the heart of sports isn't just about wins, it's about connection. About believing that when a player says they're all in, they mean it. When they show up in your city, wear your jersey, smile for your kids at community events, that it's real. And when that illusion is shattered, it doesn't just hurt ticket sales, it erodes identity. Dana Bonner didn't just walk away from a team. She walked away from a community that trusted her, believed in her, and, perhaps foolishly, thought she cared. Meanwhile, in Phoenix, it's business as usual. Bonner is back in form. The media praises her resilience. Fans forget the past. But in Indiana, fans are still connecting the dots, rewatching old interviews, catching inconsistencies, and wondering if they were ever told the truth. This is what happens when leagues value optics over honesty, when damage control takes priority over damage prevention. The longer the WNBA pretends this didn't happen, the more trust they quietly burn. Because fans aren't dumb. They're loyal. And that loyalty comes with expectations. And think about the younger players, the rookies who are watching this unfold in silence. What are they learning? That disappearing midseason is a strategy? That emotion and effort are secondary to branding and timing? That the loudest narrative wins, even if it's not the most honest? These aren't harmless messages. They seep into locker rooms. They influence team chemistry. They shape futures. And if left unchecked, this single moment could become a playbook others try to follow. This is the WNBA's inflection point. Not because of a trade, not because of a stat sheet, but because of what this moment represents. A league built on character can't afford to ignore character collapses. A league selling unity can't tolerate internal exits disguised as evolution. The longer this goes unaddressed, the more fans and players will start asking, what else don't we know? And if you've stuck around till now, you're probably one of the people who care, not just about scores and highlights, but about the soul of the game, about the loyalty, the sacrifice, the real ones who stay even when the spotlight dims. You see the difference between a comeback and a cover-up. You know that sometimes what a player doesn't say says everything. So if you're one of those fans, the ones still asking questions, still feeling the sting, don't let this moment pass quietly. Leave a comment, say your piece, demand better. Because the future of the league doesn't just depend on how well players shoot, it depends on how well they show up. Investigate Bonner, and if you made it this far, hit like, hit subscribe, and share this story. Because here at BaskXpress, we don't just react, we remember.